When I saw my son's face smiling back at me from her page, I almost dropped my phone. It was a late Thursday night, the kind where silence hums in every corner of the house. My son Ethan had already fallen asleep, his small breath steady and rhythmic from the next room. I was curled up on the couch, scrolling aimlessly through my phone, half tired and half hoping to find some distraction from the day. Then I saw it. A familiar photo. Ethan at 3 years old, chocolate ice cream smeared across his cheeks, that grin so wide his eyes disappeared into crescent moons. But it wasn't on my page. It wasn't on my husband's either. It was on hers. The caption read, "My little prince, can't believe how fast he's growing." The emojis, hearts, crowns, a baby bottle, mocked me. At first, I thought maybe it was a mistake. Maybe she'd meant to tag me or share it as some kind of memory. But the more I scrolled, the colder my stomach became. There were more. Dozens of photos. Ethan's first day of school, his birthday party, even the one of him in my late father's arms. All of them posted by her. And all captioned as if he were her own. That's how this story begins. With a phone in my shaking hand, and the slow realization that my best friend had taken something far more precious than a picture. She had taken my son's identity. Before everything fell apart, life was simple. Or at least it felt that way. I met Hannah when we were both 8 years old. She was the loud, freckled girl who sat next to me in Sunday school and whispered jokes during hymns. We grew up side by side, scraped knees, stolen snacks, whispered secrets about boys and heartbreaks. She wasn't just a friend. She was the sister I never had. Even after high school, when our paths started to curve in different directions, we always found our way back to each other. She got married first, to Mark, a quiet, decent man. And when my own wedding came, she stood right next to me as my maid of honor, teary-eyed and proud. Life has a funny way of looping people together. Years later, our families became bound again. My brother married Mark's sister. So suddenly my best friend became, in a strange way, my son's aunt by marriage. It felt poetic at first, like life rewarding our lifelong bond with something permanent. When Ethan was born, Hannah was the first one in the hospital room after my husband. I still remember the way she held him, gentle, reverent, almost like she was afraid he'd melt in her arms. "He's perfect," she whispered. "You did it, Lila." Back then, I thought it was love. Pure, platonic, maternal affection from someone who adored me. I had no reason to see anything else. For the first few years of Ethan's life, Hannah was part of our daily rhythm. She'd drop by unannounced with toys or homemade soup, call just to hear him babble through the phone, post little comments under every picture I shared. "My baby boy," or "He's growing so fast." It was harmless. That's what I told myself. I was juggling motherhood, work, and the quiet exhaustion that comes with trying to keep a small family afloat. Having Hannah around felt comforting, like a safety net from the chaos. She'd offer to babysit when I needed to rest. She'd show up at Ethan's preschool events even when I couldn't make it because of meetings. Everyone thought she was just a doting auntie. But looking back now, the signs were always there, small, creeping things I brushed off. The way she'd refer to Ethan as our boy. The way she'd answer questions about him before I could. The way she once told a stranger at a family barbecue, "He's basically mine, Lila and I share him." We laughed about it then. I shouldn't have. The first time I really noticed something strange, it was over something small. Ethan had drawn a family picture at school, a messy crayon masterpiece with stick figures. There was me, his dad, and him in the middle. But next to us, there was another woman, with long red hair like Hannah's, labeled in his uneven letters. "Mom number 2. I remember asking him gently, "Who's this baby?" He'd grinned and said, "That's Auntie Hannah. She said I'm her special boy." Something about the way he said it, proud, certain, made me pause. But then he giggled and ran off, and I told myself it was nothing. Kids say odd things all the time. But deep down something shifted that day. Still, I didn't confront her. How could I? She was my oldest friend. I told myself she just loved him too much, that it wasn't hurting anyone. Until that night. The night I found those pictures. Scrolling through her posts, I saw how far it had gone. She had created an entire timeline of motherhood that wasn't hers. My baby's first day of school. Mommy and me at the park. He looks just like his daddy. She had taken my photos, my memories, and rewritten them as her own story. And the comments? Oh, he's adorable. You two look just alike. Such a handsome little prince, just like his mama. I felt my throat tighten as I scrolled through the lies. Every comment she replied to with little hearts, as if she believed it herself. My hands trembled so hard I nearly dropped the phone. My husband, David, was asleep beside me. I wanted to wake him to show him, but the words wouldn't come out. All I could do was stare at that smiling face, my child's smile, trapped in someone else's story. The next morning, sunlight poured into the kitchen like nothing had changed. Ethan sat at the table, cereal milk dripping down his chin. Hannah's voice still echoed in my head, those captions twisting like knives. When my phone buzzed, it was a message from her. Hannah, good morning. Thinking of picking up Ethan from school later. I miss my little man. I stared at the screen for a long time. The words blurred. Something inside me hardened. That was the moment I decided. I couldn't pretend anymore. But I had no idea how deep her lies already went, or how far she'd go to protect them. That morning, I drove Ethan to school with a smile that didn't reach my eyes. He was chattering about a drawing competition, how he wanted to make a picture of our family. Will Auntie Hannah be in it? I asked softly, testing the waters. He nodded without hesitation. Of course. She said she'll help me color it. My grip on the steering wheel tightened. When I dropped him off, he ran straight toward her car. I hadn't even realized she'd arrived. Hannah stepped out, radiant as ever, red curls bouncing, waving at me with that same wide grin I'd known since childhood. Morning, Lila, she called, her voice bright and easy. Ethan wanted to surprise you. I'm volunteering in his class today. I forced a smile, pretending my chest wasn't tightening. Oh, that's nice. I didn't know you were helping out. She tilted her head. Oh, I just love spending time with the kids. You know how it is. Can't get enough of this little guy. She ruffled Ethan's hair, and he giggled. I wanted to tell her to stop, to step back. But I couldn't cause a scene, not in front of my son, not at school. So I just nodded and walked away, her laughter echoing behind me like an old song I suddenly didn't trust. That day at work, I barely heard a word anyone said. My mind kept looping back to those photos. I checked again that morning, hoping maybe I'd dreamed it. But no, she'd posted another one overnight. It was Ethan holding a toy car captioned, "He has my smile." My stomach twisted. It wasn't just creepy, it was possessive, like she believed it. That evening, I finally told David. He frowned when I showed him her page, rubbing the back of his neck as he scrolled. Okay, that's weird, he admitted. But maybe she's just overstepping? You know how attached she's been since he was born. Attached? I repeated. David, she's pretending to be his mother. He sighed. You're reading too much into it. No. Look, she says my baby. She tells people he has her smile. She's posting pictures she didn't even take. David stayed quiet, eyes still on the phone. I could tell he didn't want to pick sides. He never did when it came to Hannah. She'd always been part of the family web, part of the history that felt too messy to untangle. Just talk to her, he said finally. Tell her it makes you uncomfortable. I'm sure she'll understand. I wanted to believe that. God, I did. The next weekend, we had a small family gathering at my brother's house. His wife, Mark's sister, was hosting a barbecue, which meant Hannah would be there too. The air smelled of grilled corn and charcoal. Kids were running through sprinklers, laughter and shouts mixing in the warm afternoon air. I spotted her instantly, Hannah, sitting in a lawn chair, wearing oversized sunglasses and scrolling through her phone. When she saw me, she lit up like nothing was wrong. Lila, you look great, she called, getting up to hug me. Her perfume, the same vanilla scent she'd worn since high school, hit me before her arms did. I was just looking at pictures of our boy. Look how big he's gotten. Our boy. I pulled back and forced a tight smile. You mean my boy? She blinked, the smile faltering for a split second before she recovered. Of course. You know what I mean, he's like my own. No, Hannah, I said quietly, my tone sharper than I intended. He's not like your own. He's mine. She laughed awkwardly, glancing around to see if anyone had heard. Oh, come on, Lila. Don't be so serious. You know I adore him. I know you do, I said. But the posts, the captions, they're not okay. You can't keep pretending he's yours. Her expression shifted. A flicker of something cold beneath the smile. Pretending? You make it sound sinister. I'm asking you to stop. She crossed her arms. And what if I don't? They're just photos, Lila. You shared them first. Maybe I should have asked, but I love him like family. Isn't that a good thing? Before I could answer, Ethan ran up, dripping wet from the sprinkler. Auntie Hannah, look, he shouted, showing her a soaked paper crown he'd made. Hannah bent down, eyes softening, and kissed his forehead. My little prince, she said. I froze. That phrase, my little prince. The same words from the caption that had gutted me days earlier. It wasn't a coincidence. She knew exactly what she was doing. That night, I lay awake for hours, Ethan's small form curled beside me. I could hear his breathing, smell the faint trace of his strawberry shampoo. My heart ached with a mix of love and fear. Fear that someone was trying to rewrite what was mine. I decided I wouldn't just talk anymore. I needed to know why she was doing this. So I started digging. I created a new account, one she didn't know was mine, and followed her page. Over the next few days, I watched as she posted more of Ethan's photos. Different captions, same claim. My sweet boy's first day of kindergarten. Can't believe how much he looks like his dad. Her followers commented with warmth and envy. One even wrote, You're such a great mom. He's lucky to have you. And Hannah replied, He saved me. Saved her? From what? I felt my chest tighten. I needed to understand. When I went to visit her page one night, I noticed she'd added something new. A story highlight titled My Life. Inside were pictures not just of Ethan, but of a house that wasn't hers, our house. My husband in the background of one, mowing the lawn. My car in the driveway. It was like she'd built an alternate version of my life. The same one I was living, but without me in it. That was the moment the fear turned into anger. Not loud, not fiery, but cold. Quiet. Controlled. Because now I knew. She wasn't just confused or overattached. She wanted my family. And I had to stop her before she went any further. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her captions. The hearts, the fake memories, Ethan's face beneath her name. By dawn, I'd made up my mind. I needed proof. Something undeniable. So I started taking screenshots. Every post, every comment thread, every message she sent me where she called Ethan our boy. I even took photos of the My Life highlight with our house in it. It felt wrong, spying on someone I'd loved like a sister, but she had crossed a line that friendship couldn't excuse. By the time I got to work, my hands were shaking. I kept replaying her words from the barbecue. What if I don't stop? Like a dare. That evening, I picked Ethan up from school and noticed something new in his backpack, a framed photo. My stomach dropped the moment I saw it. It was that picture. Ethan in his superhero pajamas, missing a front tooth, smiling at the camera. I remembered the night I took it. He'd just lost his tooth and insisted the tooth fairy needed a photo. But this wasn't the photo from my living room. This one had been printed on glossy paper, placed in a frame, and signed at the bottom in neat cursive. Love, Auntie Hannah. Sweetheart, I asked, keeping my voice steady. Who gave this to you? Auntie Hannah, he said proudly. She said I can keep it in my room at her house. Her house. A tremor ran through me. That evening, I went to David again, this time with the evidence. This isn't a misunderstanding anymore, I said. She's giving him framed photos. She's building a story where I don't exist. David frowned, scrolling through the screenshots. Okay, he said finally. It's bad. I'll talk to Mark. But I shook my head. No. This isn't about her husband. This is between her and me. He hesitated, then nodded slowly. All right. But please, don't lose your temper. Just make her see reason. The next day, I drove to her house after dropping Ethan off at school. My heart hammered the entire way there. When she opened the door, she looked surprised, but not guilty. She smiled, the kind of smile that used to mean comfort but now looked like camouflage. Lila, what a nice surprise, she said. We need to talk, I said. My voice tighter than I'd planned. She stepped aside, motioning for me to enter. Her living room looked different than the last time I'd been there, more personal. And then I saw why. On her mantel were photo frames. 5, maybe 6 of them. All of Ethan. Ethan at the beach. Ethan on Christmas morning. Ethan blowing out candles. Each photo had been printed from my social media. Cropped just enough to remove me or David. And beneath one, written in a cursive gold marker, the words, "My heart, my boy." My knees nearly gave out. "What is this?" I whispered. She blinked, feigning innocence. "What do you mean?" "You know what I mean." I pointed to the mantel. "You've taken pictures of my son, posted them online as if he's yours, told people." She interrupted, her voice rising slightly. "He is mine, Lila. Maybe not by blood, but in every other way that counts." My chest went cold. "You're not his mother." "I might as well be," she said, eyes glinting. "Where were you when he scraped his knee at the park? When he needed help at preschool? I've been there. I've been the one he runs to. You let me into his life. Don't blame me for loving him." "Loving him isn't the problem," I said quietly. "Stealing him is." Her face twisted. And for the first time I saw something raw beneath the polish, desperation. "You don't understand, Lila. I can't have children. I've tried for years. Her voice cracked. I just wanted to feel what it was like. To have someone look at me that way. To belong. I wanted to feel compassion. I really did. But all I could think about was Ethan's little voice calling her mom number 2. "You could have told me," I said softly. "We could have talked about it. But you lied. You took from me." She looked at me then, eyes glistening, jaw trembling. "You're lucky, Lila. You have everything. A family. A child. You don't know what it's like to wake up every morning with empty arms." Her words hung in the air, heavy and aching. For a moment we both just stood there. 2 women bound by love, broken by it in different ways. Then she whispered, "You can't take him away from me." Something inside me snapped. He was never yours to take. I turned and walked out, heart pounding so loud it drowned out her voice calling after me. For days after, she went silent. No posts, no messages. I almost believed it was over, that maybe she'd finally seen the line she crossed. But then one afternoon, I got a call from Ethan's school. "Mrs. Daniels," the teacher said, her voice cautious. "We just wanted to confirm, is it okay for Ethan's aunt to pick him up today?" My heart stopped. "What aunt?" She said her name is Hannah Parker. She's on the emergency contact list. I felt the blood drain from my face. "No," I said, voice trembling. "She's not authorized to pick him up. Please, don't let him leave with her." I hung up and drove faster than I ever had in my life. When I arrived, Ethan was standing near the front gate, backpack on, holding Hannah's hand. She looked startled to see me, but not ashamed. "What are you doing?" I demanded, slamming the car door. She smiled faintly. "You were late. I thought I'd help." "I was 5 minutes away." "She missed me," she said softly, looking down at Ethan. "Didn't you, sweetheart?" Ethan looked from her to me, confused, small fingers fidgeting. "Mommy, what's wrong?" I crouched beside him, forcing my voice calm. "Nothing, baby. Let's go home, okay?" Hannah's eyes narrowed. "You're overreacting. Don't ever come to this school again," I said, standing tall. "Don't call him, don't post his pictures, don't come near him. This is over." Her expression hardened, the warmth gone. "You can't erase me, Lila. I'm part of his life whether you like it or not." "Not anymore," I said. And this time I meant it. When I got home, I locked the door behind us and sank to the floor, clutching Ethan as he wrapped his small arms around my neck. He whispered, "Mommy, are you mad at Auntie Hannah?" I swallowed hard, tears burning behind my eyes. "No, baby. Mommy's just protecting us." He nodded, resting his head on my shoulder. But deep down, I knew this wasn't over. Not yet. Because people like Hannah didn't walk away quietly. They rewrote endings. And I wasn't about to let her write mine. The next morning, I filed the school paperwork myself. New contact list, fresh signatures, copies of identification, emergency protocols. No one but me or David could take Ethan. Not a teacher, not a relative, not Hannah. I remember sitting in that cold, fluorescent office, the smell of disinfectant sharp in the air, signing my name over and over again until my hand cramped. It wasn't just ink, it was protection. A promise. When I got home, David was waiting at the kitchen table. The light fell across his face, and he looked tired, like someone who had spent all night thinking of the right words. "Mark knows," he said quietly. I froze halfway to the counter. "You told him?" "He called me," David said. "Apparently, Hannah came home upset. Said you overreacted at the school." "Overreacted?" I laughed, sharp, bitter. "She tried to take our son." He sighed. I know. But listen, Mark's embarrassed. He had no idea what she's been doing online. He showed me some of the posts she deleted." "She deleted them?" "Yeah. Right after you left that day. But there were hundreds, Lila. Not just a few photos. Entire posts, stories, even edited pictures with filters. Her face next to Ethan's like family portraits." He didn't know. I sat down slowly, my pulse throbbing in my ears. He didn't know. I repeated, the words hollow. "No." And he said she's not well. David hesitated. He's trying to get her to talk to someone. Therapy, maybe. I stared out the window, at the garden Ethan and I planted together. Tiny marigolds still trying to bloom despite the cold. "I don't hate her," I said softly. "I just want my son to be safe. To have his story be his." David nodded. "I'll talk to the lawyer tomorrow. Just in case." For a while, things were quiet. Weeks passed with no new posts, no texts, no sudden drop-ins. I started breathing normally again. Ethan's laughter filled the house, and I let myself believe that maybe, just maybe, peace was possible. But peace never lasts long when the past refuses to stay buried. It started with whispers. At the grocery store, two women near the frozen section stopped talking when I walked by. One of them, an old PTA mom, offered me a strained smile. "Everything all right with your sister-in-law?" she asked carefully. I frowned. "You mean Hannah?" She nodded. "I only ask because, well, she's been telling people there's some kind of misunderstanding about Ethan. Said you're going through a rough patch, and that she's just helping." Helping. That word again. By the time I got home, my stomach was in knots. I checked social media. She'd reactivated her accounts. New profile, same name. And there it was. A photo of her and Ethan from an old birthday party. The one where we all wore matching paper crowns. Her caption read, "Family isn't always by blood. Some bonds are deeper." Hundreds of likes. Comments like, "You two look so alike," and "He's lucky to have you." It was subtle now, careful. She wasn't claiming him outright. She was shaping perception. That's when I realized something. This wasn't just obsession anymore. It was identity. That evening, I called her. No texting, no back and forth. I wanted her to hear me. She answered on the second ring. "Lila," she said softly, like nothing had happened. "We need to talk," I said. She sighed. "Again?" "Yes, again. I saw your post." A pause. "I didn't say he was mine." "You didn't have to," I said. "You're implying it. You're twisting things just enough so people believe what you want them to." She laughed faintly, a sound that sent chills down my spine. "You think too much of me, Lila. People just love seeing me happy. That's all. You can't keep doing this." "And what will you do? Swim? For loving your child." Her words struck like poison, but I steadied my voice. "No, Hannah. Not for loving him. For lying. For erasing me from my own son's life." "Please," I said, quieter now. "You need help. This isn't healthy. For you or for him." "You don't get to tell me what's healthy," she snapped, voice shaking. "You have everything. I have nothing. He's the only thing that makes me feel alive." I closed my eyes. "Then that's exactly why this has to stop." Before she could answer, I hung up. My hands trembled as I set the phone down. Ethan wandered into the kitchen then, clutching his stuffed fox. "Mommy, can we make pancakes tomorrow?" I nodded, forcing a smile. "Of course, baby." He beamed and ran back to his room, the sound of his laughter echoing down the hall. The sound of everything I was fighting for. The next morning, I met with a family lawyer. She listened carefully, her pen tapping against her notebook as I explained everything. The posts, the school pickup, the social media manipulation. When I finished, she said, "You're right to take this seriously. This is a form of identity intrusion, emotional and reputational. We can file a restraining order if it escalates." Restraining order? The words tasted heavy in my mouth. She's my friend. My best friend. The lawyer looked up gently. Not anymore. I walked out of that office with a folder of papers that felt like the weight of every broken promise I'd ever made to myself. That night I told David. He didn't argue. He just held my hand and said, "Whatever you need to do, I'll support you." A week later, I received a message from Hannah. No griting, no pretense. Just one line. "If you take this away from me, I'll make sure everyone knows who you really are." I stared at the words, my pulse hammering. I typed a response, then deleted it. Over and over again. Eventually, I just turned off my phone. Because I knew what she was doing now. This wasn't love or grief. It was control. She didn't respond. I could hear her breathing, shallow fast. And I wasn't playing her game anymore. The next day, I submitted the paperwork. The line was drawn. Official. Legal. Final. It hurt. God, it hurt. To end something that once felt like sisterhood. But as I stood at the courthouse steps, the late afternoon sun painting the world in quiet gold, I knew I had done the right thing. Because protecting my child wasn't just about keeping him safe. It was about teaching him that boundaries are loved too. Still, I couldn't shake the fear of what came next. People like Hannah don't fade quietly. They rewrite the story until someone believes them. And sure enough, it wasn't long before the whispers grew louder. The whispers turned into murmurs, and murmurs turned into questions. At the next school pickup, a few parents avoided my gaze. Others smiled too tightly. One mother, Sandra, who used to carpool with Hannah, leaned in as I buckled Ethan into his booster seat. "I just wanted to say," she whispered, glancing around, "I don't believe what she's saying about you." I froze. "What do you mean?" "She's been telling people you're struggling. That you've been distant with Ethan. That she's been stepping in." "Stepping in?" I repeated. Sandra nodded, pity softening her voice. "You know how she can be. I just thought you should know." I thanked her and shut the door, my chest tight with fury. As I drove home, I caught sight of Ethan in the mirror, humming to himself, swinging his legs, blissfully unaware of the mess the adults around him were making. And I thought, this ends now. That night, I went live on my own social page. Something I'd never done before. Never needed to. I wasn't the kind of person who shared my private life online. But this wasn't about pride anymore. It was about clarity. The screen blinked on, and I saw my own reflection staring back at me. Tired eyes, steady voice. "Hi everyone," I began. "I don't usually share personal things, but there's been some confusion I need to clear up." I didn't name her. I didn't insult her. I simply told the truth. That someone close to me had been using my son's photos without permission, that it had gone too far, and that I had taken legal steps to protect my family. Then I ended with, "Motherhood doesn't need validation from anyone else. My son knows who I am. And that's enough." I ended the live, my hands trembling. By morning, the post had over 2,000 comments. Messages of support poured in from strangers, mothers, friends, even teachers who had seen it happen in other forms. "You did the right thing. Boundaries are love. Protect your baby first, always." And inevitably, we knew she was lying. Hannah saw it, of course. She called that afternoon, her voice shaking. "How could you do this to me?" "To you?" I said. "You made this public." "I just told the truth." "You humiliated me, Lila." "No," I said, quieter now. "You did that to yourself." There was a long silence, just her breath on the line. Then she whispered, almost to herself, "He was supposed to be mine." And that, more than anything else she'd ever said, broke something in me. Because I finally understood. This wasn't jealousy. It wasn't cruelty. It was emptiness. A desperate attempt to fill a space in her life with something that never belonged to her. "Hannah," I said, soft but firm. "You need help. Please. For your sake." She didn't answer. The line went dead. For weeks after, she vanished. No posts, no calls, no sightings at the cafe or the school gates. I thought it was over. Until one evening, while Ethan was watching cartoons, there was a knock on the door. When I opened it, she was standing there. Hannah. She looked different, thinner, pale, eyes swollen like she hadn't slept in days. She was holding a small box in her hands. "Can I come in?" she asked softly. I hesitated, then stepped aside. Just for a moment. She walked in slowly, her gaze darting around the familiar space. The family photos, Ethan's artwork on the fridge, the shoes by the door. "I'm not here to fight," she said. "I just wanted to give you this." She placed the box on the table. Inside were printed photos, my photos. The ones she'd taken. The ones she'd posted online. "I deleted everything," she said. "All of it." I studied her face. There was shame there, and something else, grief. "Why, Hannah?" I asked quietly. "Why did you do it?" She looked down, twisting the hem of her sleeve. "You remember when I couldn't have kids?" I nodded slowly. "I thought I'd made peace with it. But watching you with Ethan, it made something inside me ache. I told myself I just wanted to be part of his life. But then the lines got blurry. I started pretending, telling people what I wished was true. And once I started lying, I didn't know how to stop." Her voice cracked, and she covered her face with her hands. "I ruined everything, didn't I?" I didn't answer right away. I just stood there, listening to the clock ticking softly behind us. Finally, I said, "You hurt me, Hannah. You scared me. But I also think you're hurting too." She looked up, tears streaking down her cheeks. "I'll get help. I promise. I already started seeing someone. I just wanted to tell you in person." She turned to leave, but before she stepped outside, she paused. "You're a good mother, Lila. Better than I ever told you." Then she walked away. That night, after Ethan went to bed, I opened the box again. Each photo was a memory. Ethan's first steps, his first day of preschool, his silly grin after ice cream. I held one up and felt tears slip down my face. Not just for what I lost, but for what Hannah had lost too. Because somewhere between her grief and my fear, two mothers had almost destroyed the same love they were both trying to protect. Over the next few months, peace returned in small pieces. Ethan started piano lessons. I took up painting again. David smiled more. And slowly, the world quieted down. Hannah moved away, back to her hometown. I heard from Mark that she was doing better, working in therapy, staying off social media. And though we never spoke again, I found myself wishing her well. Because forgiveness isn't forgetting. It's remembering, and choosing peace anyway. One evening, months later, Ethan brought home a drawing from school. It was a family portrait. Me, him, and David. 3 stick figures with bright yellow smiles. I looked at the picture and felt something loosen inside me. He knew. He always knew who his mother was. And in that moment, I finally stopped needing to prove it to anyone. When I look back now, I realize that love, real love, isn't about ownership. It isn't about the pictures we post or the titles we claim. It's about the quiet things. The 3 a.m. lullabies, the scraped knees, the whispered I love yous when no one else is watching. For a long time, I thought Hannah had stolen something from me. That she had taken my son's story and twisted it into her own. But the truth is she never could. Because the bond between a mother and her child doesn't live on a screen. It lives in the heartbeat that started inside you. I've learned that sometimes people cross boundaries not because they're evil, but because they're broken. They see love and try to borrow it, not realizing that love can't be borrowed, only shared. And when they try to fill their emptiness with someone else's joy, they end up spreading pain instead. Forgiveness wasn't easy. It took months of anger, confusion, and sleepless nights before I could finally let go. But when I did, I realized forgiveness isn't about saying, "It's okay." It's about saying, "I won't carry this anymore." I protected my son. And in doing so, I learned to protect myself too. Not with walls, but with truth. Because truth, steady, quiet truth, is what keeps you standing when everything else gets twisted. To any mother listening to this, you are not defined by what others say, or post, or claim. You are defined by the way your child runs into your arms. by the way they know your voice, your smell, your heart. That is motherhood. And no one can ever take that away from you. If you've ever had to reclaim something that was yours, your story, your peace, your love, I hope you know you're not alone. Would you have forgiven her, the way I did? Or would you have walked away forever? Tell me in the comments below. And if my story touched your heart tonight, don't forget to subscribe for more real stories about love, family, and finding yourself again. Until next time, this is Lila, and this was my truth.